Hi, everybody. Welcome. We're going to give it just a few minutes while we wait for everybody to flow in from the waiting room, but thanks for joining us. Carolyn, I can't tell if you're in your car driving or just in your car, but I'm impressed either way. Welcome, everybody. Thanks for joining us. We're going to give it one more minute while we wait for all of our guests to join us, and then we'll get things going. Okay, it's 5:02. We will go ahead and get started. Welcome, everyone. My name is Sue Corner. I'm the Dean of Undergraduate Admissions here at Willamette, and we're so glad to see so many faces or names or a combination of both. Thanks for joining us. This is the second in our series of 5 virtual summer events for new Bearcats and their family members. We are very hopeful that this series is helpful to you as you prepare for arrival. Move-in day is 93 days from today. So as you're planning for that, unless you're a student athlete, you might be coming a little sooner than that, but 93 days for the main move-in day. And the goal of these events is to just help smooth the path to that arrival so that you're just ready for everything you need to do between now and then. Tonight we are focused on housing. Big topic, lots of questions always about housing. So we've got experts here focused on housing and on opening days, which is what we call our excellent orientation program for new students. So those are our 2 topics for tonight. We have several experts in the room, and I'll just ask people to kind of wave their hand when I introduce you. In the kind of back of the house, I have 2 of my colleagues helping with just organizing things and working with the Q&A and the chat. We have Patrick Wilson, who is our Director of Admissions Marketing and Events. And we have Amaya Latusik, who is our I forgot your title, Amaya. She does everything visits related. She's our assistant director of admissions visits. Sorry, that just lost my brain there for a moment. We also have Aaron Hukari, who is our director of residence life and housing, and he is joined by Roan Keller, who is one of our student resident advisors, and then we have Lisa Holliday, who is our Associate Dean of Students and Director of Student Engagement and Leadership, and has been the longtime queen of opening days here at Willamette. And we're joined by Jay Chu, who is one of the student coordinators of the opening days program. So just a couple of reminders before we get things rolling. We are recording tonight so that for those who want to return to this and review something that you might have missed, or for those who aren't able to join us, this will be sent out probably tomorrow or the next day, the recording. So just please be aware that you are being recorded. When we're done with the presentation part, which will take about 20-25 minutes, then we will open things up for questions. And if you have typed a question into the chat, or sorry, into the Q&A, or if you would like to use the raise hand function and ask a question just out loud, we will manage questions at that time. We think it's always great to wait with your questions sort of until we get through the prepared content, because it's quite likely that many of your questions will be answered in the course of what's been prepared for you. So, okay, with that, I'm going to turn it over to Erin to go ahead and tell us everything you know. Erin.
That might be a little difficult to, but hi everyone. My name is Aaron Hukari. I use he and pronouns. I'm the Director of Residence Life and Housing here at Willamette. I'm really lucky in that my office helps coordinate a lot of the programming and life that happens within our residence halls, supported both from our professional staff down to our student staff, and even coordinating with students who decide to be leaders within their halls. We are really, really excited about the opportunities that living in the residence halls provides. Living on campus and in the buildings increase student learning, increases student engagement with their fellow students. It increases their persistence through college and their actual likelihood of graduation. And more than 85% of our students really feel connected because they were living in housing. And it helps connect to why we require students to live 2 years in our residence halls. There are a number of exemptions to the residency requirements. The specific ones can be found on our website, but some of the more consistent ones are students who are over 21 before the academic year starts, students who are living with parents or guardians within a 25-mile radius of campus, or there are some medical accommodations that dictate the need to not live on campus. But if you have any questions about that, a lot of it has to do with your individual circumstances, and our staff is really great at responding individually. Possibly the most exciting part right now is that our application for housing is open. Our priority deadline is June 1st, although it'll still stay open past that. Our application can be found on our website in the housing portal. You just have to go to our website and log in with your Willamette ID and authentication. It does take a few days after depositing for all of the systems to talk to each other, but you'll be able to see 2 different applications on the housing portal. One is the actual application for housing. It asks some questions about what your lifestyle is like, your preferences in terms of what your roommate might be like, and then the other application is one for a partnership that we have where we offer renters insurance. It is always my recommendation when you are moving into a building with 300 other people that have not lived on their own before to get some kind of renters insurance. You might be covered by possibly your parents' homeowner plan, and you certainly don't need to use our vendor, but I just recommend that renters insurance can cover a whole lot of different things that can happen in the residence halls. We, in addition to our application, meet a whole host of medical accommodations or religious accommodations in the buildings. If you have a reason to request a medical accommodation, our accessible education office handles the application and the approval of all of those, and they just communicate the information for us to meet your need. So we don't need to have all of your medical documentation and kind of like get into all of the privacy related to that. If you have a religious obligation, we ask that you reach out to my office, and I'll probably ask you some questions about what that might entail. We do ask, since we're going to be busy placing students into their placements over the summer, we ask that all of that documentation be done by June 15th. It gives us time to kind of follow up on any questions that we might have outside of the AES process, so that we can get to actually placing students into bed spaces. In terms of the great things that happen in our residence halls, the vast majority, I have to say, is done by the resident advisors, the student leaders that live in the buildings, and really focus on the community development, building connections between residents, kind of guiding students to other resources and helpful places on campus. I'm joined by one of them. Their name is Roan. They'll get to answer some of your questions later in the Q&A. The residents love our resident advisors, and in addition to the community development, they're trained to kind of just be a one-stop shop for kind of where a student might need to go for help if they're seeking or facing some kind of difficulty. In addition to the RAs, we have professional staff that are responsible for helping coordinate the work of the RAs, as well as support students who might either want to not speak to another student about an issue, or just get flagged by the university or a faculty member where we don't think another student reaching out to them might be the most appropriate thing. We have 4 residence life coordinators. They serve in an emergency on-call capacity 24/7, 365 for any kind of issue that happens in the hall, in addition to campus safety. And often our staff and campus safety will respond to situations together. In addition to sort of our general housing, we have 4 focused interest communities in the first year areas. One is Mosaics. It's focused on supporting first generation students and other students who are wanting support in the transition to college. We have a stewardship community that is focused on outdoor and sustainability programming. Lavender community is our LGBTQ plus issues focused community. And this year, we're really excited to start our inaugural business interest community. If you saw me at Bearcat Days, you know that it's unnamed because we want some enterprising marketing major, like interested people to come up with a catchy title for it. There's a whole great list of dates on our website. Some of the really important ones, like I said at the beginning, was that our application, the priority application, closes at the end of this month. It doesn't mean that you can't apply for housing, but that's sort of when we'll start communicating other things in a sequence for you. Most of our students actually select their own roommates, and so you'll have access to a database in order to see other students' housing applications. The lifestyle and likings application is the one that's going to be shared and searchable by other students. You all will be able to see that database starting June 9th and start requesting and confirming matches and all of that sort of thing through the 22nd of June. And then at the beginning of August, we'll start actually announcing and sharing placements with you all. And at that point, you'll also be signing up for a move-in time. We do kind of schedule out move-in with shifts just so that not all 500 of you come in at one time and try and space out the time in the halls. And that move-in date is August 20th. I would be remiss for my staff if I didn't mention that if you are going home for winter break, that last day is December 12th, and May 7th of next May is actually the end of academic year. But I will pass it off to, I assume, admissions to introduce orientation again.
Thank you, Erin. That was terrific. Lisa, we'll hand it over to you to tell us everything you know about opening days and orientation.
Okay, I'll try. So hi everyone, Lisa Holiday. I'm going to tell you a little bit about Opening Days, which is our new student orientation program. And I want to emphasize it's for all new students. Our Opening Days program is not only for first year students, like first time freshmen, but it's also for transfer students as well. And our transfer students have a couple of different options for orientation that we will be communicating with you about. But no, this Opening Days program is for everyone, for all new students. And our 2 goals with Opening Days for new students, very simply, is for you to start creating connections with your peers, finding your community. And then the second one is becoming aware of resources on campus. And for those of you who come for a visit or come for Bearcat Days or looked at our website, you know, we have a lot of resources available on our campus, and especially for new students through our college colloquium program and other mentoring opportunities that are available to first year students. So those are going to be our 2 overarching goals during Opening Days, is to get you connected not only to your peers, but also to resources. We have a schedule on the Opening Days website, and you could just go to the Willamette website and put Opening Days in the search, and our website will pop up. A lot of the questions you will have about the schedule, logistics around like where can you stay in Salem if you haven't been to Salem yet. There's also profiles of all of our orientation leaders as well, just to name a few things. So I would really encourage you to check out that website. The days of opening days specifically are Wednesday, August 20th until Sunday, August 24th. And then our first day of classes is Monday, the 25th. So it's 5 days leading up to the first day of classes. If you're an athlete or you're participating in one of our pre-orientation programs, which is called Jumpstart, your move-in day will be a little bit different. And if you're a student athlete for the fall early arrival athletic programs, those include football, triathlon, volleyball, and both men's and women's soccer. You'll hear from your coach about the specific arrival date and time for those sports. But you will still fully participate in opening days starting on that Wednesday, the 20th. And then the same thing for our Jumpstart pre-orientation programs. You'll receive some communication about those opportunities to register. There's also information on the website as well. But as Erin mentioned, majority of our students will move in on Wednesday, the 20th. You'll sign up for a specific move-in time. We do move in the morning between around 8:30 to noon, that time window. And then we start our orientation program that afternoon. So we really encourage all students to try to, as much as possible, bring what you can with you. Try to get those shopping trips done. If you're coming from out of state, might want to decide to come in the day before, get some shopping done so that you're ready to move in, because we do have an academic program that is part of our opening days program called College Colloquium. And College Colloquium is your first class as a first-year student. If you're a transfer student, you do not have College Colloquium, but you will still start opening days on that afternoon of the 20th. College Colloquium course is going to start in the afternoon. We will also have some parent and family programming that afternoon. But there isn't a lot of time on that Wednesday. The whole day is not dedicated to moving in and getting settled. The first 2 or 3 days of opening days are pretty busy, but then the amount of activities let up on the weekends, and so it gives everybody time to get fully settled and acclimated as much as possible before classes begin on Monday. So leading you through your opening days schedule will be orientation leaders called opening days leaders. And every student will be in an opening days group led by an opening days leader. And they're all returning students who have at least 1 year of experience at Willamette. And they will be your guide through the opening days schedule, answer your questions, give you a campus tour, show you where your classes are, those types of things. Jay is one of our opening days leaders and is actually the lead of all the leaders. And he will be answering your questions specifically about that. But you will be hearing from your orientation leader, your opening days leader, in mid-June. They will reach out to you via email or maybe Google chat or text or something like that. And they will introduce themselves and be available to you as a resource, as will your colloquium associate who's paired with your college colloquium course. They'll be reaching out, and possibly your resident associate or RA as well. So be prepared for hearing from some of those students that can help answer your questions from a student perspective. I am always available to answer any questions that you might have about logistics. You may not have those questions right now, but as you start planning and thinking about August 20th or whatever your arrival date, and you're not sure how to handle certain situations, like feel free to reach out to our office, to the Student Engagement and Leadership Office, SEAL. Also, the same could be said for the admission office as well, if you're just not sure how this is all going to work. I personally have moved a daughter to the middle of Pennsylvania for college. And so I'd like to say I'm pretty good with that, and could help if necessary. Jay, did I forget anything about opening days, or did I do a pretty good job? Okay, thumbs up from Jay. So that's good. So yeah, we will be available to answer your questions. But again, I just want to put a plug in for the website as well. A lot of good information on the Opening Days website.
Thanks, Lisa. Let's open things up for questions. And again, I think some questions have come in through the Q&A feature. So Patrick, maybe you can feed those to appropriate folks, and we can start with those. And then if folks have more they'd like to type into the Q&A or would like to use the little hand raise feature, we can call on you to ask a question out loud. But start us off, Patrick.
I'm going to answer the first question because it is about when students can begin receiving mail. You will get your mailbox number via email the last week of July or the first week of August, and you can start sending mail shortly thereafter. The mailroom does not have unlimited capacity, so they generally appreciate if mail does not arrive more than about a week before you do. But you will keep your same mailbox number throughout your 4 years. And if the number of times Amazon shows up outside my window and walks into the UC is any indication, you can send everything you ever could possibly need over to Amazon or to the UC. Aaron, the STEM fellows and the other housing communities, which building how are those scheduled for, if you know and wish to share?
Yeah, so the STEM Fellows community and the business community are currently set for Baxter. The other three are set for somewhere in the Matthews area. A lot of it comes down to the number of people who are interested, so we can match the size of the community to the actual floor plan. And so it'll sort of depend on who all is interested, and we want to make sure that as many people can participate as possible.
Can you speak a little bit more about the roommate matching process in terms of students being able to go in and see other students and how they can potentially communicate with each other and determine if they're a good match?
Yeah, so you'll go in and actually you could at first see all of the applications that are in, and it includes information like preferred name, gender, all of the do you rise early, do you rise late, and you can filter by actually any of those those tags. So say you only want someone who wakes up at 6 a.m. because you wake up at 6 a.m. You can find someone who would like to do that together. And so the system will allow you to email each other. We find that most students, once they make initial connection, go and move to another medium of communication, whether that's a social media site or texting. But no matter what, on the end of it, if you do decide to actually be roommates with someone, you do need to return to the system and actually request and confirm the roommate pairing, so that we know that you've actually mutually agreed to do that. The search function is pretty robust. All you need to do is type in actually a word and it'll just find that word within the entire application. Or you can do some more granular stuff in terms of like categories and that sort of thing. It is text only. I think you can include like a URL, but recommend sharing links and stuff once you actually get connected with people rather than like in the application itself, just so that you don't find yourself being spammed on your preferred like social media site. And then you can kind of filter through your email.
If you already have someone who you would room with, how do you go about finding that match?
Yeah, you just type in their name into our system and request them. And then the other person can do the same, or whoever gets there first would just request it, and then the second person would confirm it. All of it is done through the system. It's really great that way in terms of like communicating with us what the actual roommate match would be. If there's for some reason that you can't find someone, like people put in typos sometimes with their application, we can go in and manually find people. But a lot of it is pretty findable within the database.
And if someone wanted to revise their already submitted housing questionnaire, is that possible?
Yeah, so you just need to reach out to us and we can reset the application for you. There's no benefit or detriment to actually when you submit the application. And so you can resubmit now and it wouldn't have any effect on where we actually place you in July. And so there's no concern there either.
The great lead on to the next question. How do you choose a room?
So we actually place students administratively on our end. The rooms we find are very, very similar And so a lot of the anxiety that students can face when being like, what is this room versus that room? We just place students based off of our kind of reading of their application and where they might do well best. Some of the priorities that we give are accommodations. Like if you have an approved accommodation, we place you first just so that we can meet your approved accommodation. And then a lot the focused interest communities we place second, just because we need to house those staff together. But a lot of that time, other than that, the only determining factor for where you will be is there's a part on the application that says, are you taller than 6'3"? Because some of our beds are standard beds, some of them are twin extra longs. And so that will determine also like which place in the communities that you live. If you do say that you are taller than 6'3", you will be placed somewhere in the Baxter community. That's where the vast majority of our twin extra long beds are in the first year area.
Do you have a percentage of students that are matched by themselves versus by housing?
It's something around 2/3 of our students match with each other. And so it's definitely a majority, but it's certainly not everyone. Sometimes just like the system and like the people that you find in the system like aren't singing to you. And so you're just like, I'm not quite sure. And maybe the housing staff will do a good job in finding someone. What we also find is sometimes like it slips their mind that like this whole thing was going to happen. And so we just administratively place them on the back end and they just weren't paying attention to the system. And so there's a whole host of reasons why people might get assigned a roommate. And so it's not a detriment at all in case you can't feel like you can't find someone.
When is roommate selection due?
I moved away from my notes. June 22nd.
And when will students learn of their room placement?
August 5th. But they will have confirmed knowledge about their roommate if they selected beforehand.
And at
Because
that
they're the
point,
ones that tell us.
And at that point, they'll know if they should buy regular length or extra long sheets.
Yes. My recommendation is always to buy extra long because they will fit any bed on campus. And you can just kind of like tie the ends if you end up in a standard room. But certainly you can get the matching size to the mattress. And Rowan has a comment.
Oh.
Yeah, I have two things to add. Target has really great twin like sheets that fit XL as well. They have like elastic on them. And so you don't even have to tie the end, and it's like it will fit a regular size twin bed or it will fit a twin XL. So you don't have to worry about sheets in that regard. And then also I just wanted to add like with being like randomly paired with roommates, the majority of people that I know, I want to say like 99.9% of the people I know who have had a random assignment have loved their roommate and it's worked out really well. So if you aren't able to find someone that you like automatically mesh with, that's okay, and chances are it will work out really well.
I love that reassurance, Roan. That's great. It's always kind of miraculous how well it seems to work out. Patrick, I'm going to interrupt you just for a second because Ethan has his hand raised. So let's interrupt the Q&A questions for just a second. And Ethan, go ahead and ask your question if you'd like.
I have to let Ethan unmute themselves. Go ahead, Ethan.
All right, here we go. Sorry, it was telling me, oh, the host isn't letting you unmute yourself. So out of curiosity, I know there's like a lot of talk about the extra large beds. If you get one of those, how far away is it from like the rest of the dorms? It's in the same building, I'm pretty sure, because of all the first years and kind of that one big complex. But is it like a separate wing, or how does that work?
Some of them are different wings. Some of them are within the big central part. It sort of depended on when they were last replaced. But it's certainly not a very large distance. The Baxter building is all connected on the interior. And so there's very little separation actually from the individual communities.
All right, thank you.
When do students find out if they received their housing accommodation?
They'll know the room number on that August 5th date. But you should get, once the accommodation has been approved by AES, a good way of actually confirming that you've received your accommodation is that the billing will be at the standard double rate if you have a different room type. So say you're approved for a single room, on your bill that is released in July, you'll be actually billed a double. You can always confirm with us. We're pretty quick at assigning the accommodations just because we know where the accommodations all are matched. And so you're welcome to confirm with us. But AES, once they send you the affirmation, is sufficient enough to know that, like, cool, we've been able to place you.
Are students able to room with older students after their freshman year, second year, or third year students?
For their first year, we do have open roommate selection. So students are able to pick an older roommate if they like. The only thing that is a barrier to that is that first and second year students aren't able to live in the apartments that we have on campus. And so even if a sophomore chooses to live with a senior, they would be placed in a standard double on campus.
And what about the gendered nature of the residence hall? Single gender female floors for first year students, floors by gender identify as or their biological sex.
Yeah, so we assign by identified gender, and then there's a place on the application to indicate whether or not you would like a single gender community or not. The vast majority of our communities are co-ed within the floor, and so you'll have a male identified room living with a female identified room, or living next to a female identified room. But if you indicate on your application that you would like a single gender community, we set aside spaces for a single gendered male floor and a single gendered female floor.
And then final housing question for now, and then we're going to move on to opening days. If you're a transfer student coming in, how is that housing being assigned?
So it's actually very similar. We have identified a whole group of students who have identified that they want to live with someone who is new to Willamette, and we'll share their housing application at the same timeline with the first year incoming students. So June 9th, you'll be able to peruse all of the students who have identified that they are open to living with a transfer student or English language as a second ELAS student, and be able to indicate that you want to be roommates with them as well.
Okay, time for some opening days questions. Although again, the first one I'm going to answer myself. It's about when you find out about colloquium assignments, which will be May 30th. You'll find out about your colloquium assignment May 30th. Jumpstart registration begins, I think that actually if you find it online, but we'll email you next week about Jumpstart registration. But Lisa, can you speak to how opening days intersects with the Catalyst program or the early move-in via AES?
Yes. So both of our pre-orientation programs are one-day programs, and they take place on Tuesday, the 19th. So they will be completed before opening days starts on the 20th. So there's no conflict there. And then families who are dropping students off for the pre-orientation program are welcome to stick around Salem and participate. We do have some sessions in the afternoon on the 20th for parent and family members that you are welcome to attend. And then you're also welcome to have dinner with your student on the 20th. We're having a big picnic dinner. And then after dinner is when families and students say goodbye. And then the parent and family programming is complete. And so parents are free to leave campus at that point.
So in other words, to answer another question here, should we be gone by the 21st? And do you recommend parents stay locally over the weekend?
We do not patrol the campus looking for parent family members. When I get that question a lot over the years, I say that that is really a question that's best discussed between the student and the family members. I know that, you know, some of you are traveling long distances, and so there are different logistics associated with that. And so some families do stick around either for that, or there might be health concerns or needs that need to be worked out locally, because again, you're moving from far away. And so sometimes families stick around to make sure that that's all settled before they leave. But as far as your official role on campus and programming, everything is done the evening of the 20th after dinner.
Hmm. I'll answer this one. AES academic accommodations be arranged over the summer, or do students need to do some follow-up during opening days? AES would love to talk with you as soon as you are ready to talk with them, knowing that the first week of classes gets very busy for AES, both with continuing and returning students. So if you can manage your accommodations conversation with them now and over the summer, you will be much better set up for success when you arrive on campus. That seems to be all the opening days questions for now. But for our students, can you speak to suggestions about what you wish you brought, didn't bring, lessons learned?
Yeah, I think one big one is I personally didn't bring any extra furniture, but I know people that have. The rooms are equipped with all the furniture and storage that you'll need. I'd maybe suggest getting a couple storage bins, because those are great for move out and just keeping things under your bed. But I would maybe wait on purchasing any big items like that until you've had a chance to look at your room. And we also have like on the Willamette website, once you get your room, what's the word? Once you figure out where you'll be staying, you can look up the housing plans and the floor plans, and there are a lot of video tours of certain rooms as well, so you can look at that. I'm trying to think of what else. Cleaning supplies is a good one, just basic cleaning supplies, like some paper towels, some cleaning spray for your room. You don't need to go too above and beyond with that stuff because there's vacuums in every residence hall. The kitchens have dish soap, things like that. But just some basic cleaning supplies. I think my biggest suggestion would be just wait to purchase any like big things until you have a chance to look at it. Mattress topper. That's a huge one. Get a mattress topper.
And to add on to Ron's point as well, as far as like the bigger ticket items, you know, such as like maybe like a mini fridge or like a big mirror or something like that, like there's a rummage sale that's put on by the Panhellenic, I'm going to mispronounce that, council every year. And it's pretty much just you show up and there's just a bunch of items, like, you know, they'll have like a dozen mini fridges and you just like, you're like, I would like a mini fridge, and like, all right, cool. So there's that available for your students as well. And I found that very helpful my first year.
I also, sorry, you're reminding me of things. A big one too is like I know personally I like to cook my own meals, and I was really excited about like utilizing the dorm kitchens, and they're really nice. But I like got some cooking stuff. You really don't need that much. Like at the end of the day, you're gonna be busy. It's really nice to have a meal plan and just head down to Gowdy and get food. So things like that. Uh, yeah, I'd say just keep it simple before you.
One thing that
Yeah.
one thing that I would add is we do the first week of classes, we do sponsor a bus to Target. And so students who need to go shopping within the first few days and they don't have transportation, that's something that we provide as part of opening days. And so that is typically Wednesday of the first week of classes, and it's just it's a shuttle bus that goes back and forth in the early evening.
Jay and Drew, there are some questions about lofting the beds in the residence halls. Do you have any recommendations or input on that option?
So quite a few of the residence halls you're able to submit a maintenance request to get them lofted. It really depends on the hall and what sort of bed you have. You can also, the rummage sale oftentimes has little bed risers that you can get. Those are great. They're already pretty high up though, especially in the freshman dorm. So I wouldn't be too worried about that. There's plenty of storage. My freshman year, I was able to put like a rug and a little comfy pillow under and have like a little nook, and I still had plenty of storage. So
The vast majority of the beds can be raised to house a mini fridge. And so if that's where you're thinking of like, oh, how can I fit this under a bed? The vast majority of the beds on campus can house a mini fridge. They can't house the mini fridge with the like attached microwave on top. That's just too tall for the beds to be lofted over that. But just the standard one is perfectly comfortable under the bed.
Can
And
we speak to
confirm,
the
I was gonna say,
go
can
ahead.
confirm, I did have a mini fridge under my bed my first year and it was great. And I too, like Rowan said, had a little like chill out space underneath. I had a little bean bag thing and like a little pillow and like a blanket, and friends would come over and we'd hang out, play cards and stuff like that. So it's definitely accommodating the space for however you want to set it up.
There's some bathroom questions, including things like the shower pressure, the gendered natures of bathrooms. Bathrooms.
yeah, I can answer that. Shower pressure depends on what building you're in. It really does. I've never had an issue with the shower pressure. I don't know about Jay, but I have never really heard any concerns in that regard. With the gender nature, it just depends on, I think Erin can correct me if I'm wrong, but it really just depends on who's in that hall at the time. So if you look at floor plans, it might say this is a women's restroom, this is a men's restroom. Don't bank on that. It really depends on the need of the floor. So if there is a like women identifying only floor, it's going to be a women's restroom. I think we try to have gender neutral bathrooms in every building, as well as at least one male identifying and one female identifying. Was I correct with that, Erin?
Yeah, there's at least one of everything in each of the buildings, in addition to a number of single use, where like there's a
Yes.
toilet and a shower and a sink in a lockable space.
Yeah.
The single gendered bathrooms honestly outnumber the gender neutral bathrooms, just because we know that like by need of the community, there's going to be more single gendered spaces. But there are a number of gender neutral rooms in each of the buildings.
And the showers are very private. In the bathrooms with multiple showers and things like that. Oftentimes it's like a separate space as well. That also reminds me a bathroom is a great thing to have.
Shower shoes.
Is parking plentiful during check-in?
Yes, we have Sparks parking lot, which is available to everyone, and we also will acquire some additional parking spaces across the street at the local Heritage Museum. We do have when you're actually unloading your car, we have designated areas where you're able to pull up right outside the residence hall, and we have a team of volunteers that will help quickly unload the cars, and then you'll be able to go park your car. And we will be sending out information at the beginning of August about where you go to unload your items and those type of logistics.
When you pull up, people are going to run to your car, pull everything out of it, put it in bins, and before you realize you may have just been robbed, your items are all in your residence hall room. It is a truly spectacular process.
It's fantastic. You think you're going to have to take all of these loads up the staircases, and you don't have to at all. There are people here to do it for you. It's very well done. There's a question about just clarifying that following this webinar, Patrick will make sure that the recording is emailed out to everyone. And it will also be linked to the enrolling student checklist webpage, so you can find it there as well. The kind of find a roommate link will not be in that same email. Erin, can that be linked into the chat now, or is that something that they need to find in a portal?
The link will be in the same place where you apply for housing. It's just a different module that you'll pick from it. No one has access to it since it's not open yet.
Oh, okay.
But I can share the link to the portal, just because it's helpful to have for folks that haven't quite yet applied for housing.
Okay. Okay, perfect. And
You're only going to be able to log into that if you have your Willamette network account.
And there are a couple of questions about the level of detail in the housing application, and is there a way to kind of give more information or search more information about others that students might like to be connecting with? Like if a student athlete wants to maybe connect with another student athlete because they have similar, like, we get up early kind of schedules. Is there a way to do that once they do get that link and get into that process, Erin?
I always encourage students to include it in the about me section. There's kind of this open text box that you're able to kind of wax poetically about who you are and what you're looking for. But if there's anything more specific, or if there's really specific concerns, our staff can answer anything that you might have. I've answered questions about different bathroom arrangements, or this is what I'm kind of worried about within my housing assignment. Can I be placed in a place that is a little bit more social, all of that sort of stuff, just because the living requirements and the living situations are kind of really impactful to everyone's experience of campus. And so if there's anything that you're not wanting to disclose on that kind of form, we're happy to take that in and keep it in our notes when we go in and place students. We're not able to really guarantee a lot of that just because it comes down to the general balance of the class. But we're happy to take in any information that you want to share that would make it our placement of you more successful.
Just a few more minutes before we're intended to wrap up. Patrick, do you see questions we should prioritize? They keep coming in.
Can male and female co-ed together in the same room?
Yes. As long as they match each other on the application, we will. Our standard is to match identified genders to live together, because that's sort of our presumed what most people would prefer. But if you have a specific identified person, you are welcome to do that. The exception to the kind of preferred gender placement is with our lavender community. We assign the living spaces within the lavender community gender neutral.
Student athletes live amongst all of our communities. They do not have a separate housing dorm. AES students can request early move-in through the Early Access AES program, which you'll be emailed about next week. Does anybody want to raise their hand and ask live? Any final questions there? I think we've covered a lot of these things. The advantage, I was going to say, the advantages of being in a housing community, the STEM program, the Lavender program, the new business, the unnamed business program.
Yeah, in the vast majority of cases, there isn't a very oh my gosh, you need to live in this. Really what it is that a lot of the programming are themed around those interests. The stewardship community, for example, went out and camped up the Oregon coast in February, because the Oregon coast is a great place to be in the winter. But a lot of it is purposeful connection with the office that's tied to kind of that interest community. So the STEM Fellows, for example, is connected with one of our chemistry faculty. The business community is connected with the business faculty. And so it's a really great way of being connected to some of those programs or resources that you already know that you have an interest in. But all of those resources are also available to you all in general, in the general housing population also. There's so many different clubs and organizations, so many different ways of getting involved. Outdoor programs have a number of trips on campus that go throughout the academic year. So whether or not that you apply to a specific housing community or not, there's a number of ways of meeting that same need, but not necessarily being housed in that specific location.
Andrea.
Hi there. Thank you for all this information. I'm just looking for some key dates right now. So the student can register for the roommate on June 9th. Is that correct?
That's when it'll be open, yes.
That's when it'll be open. And then they have to sign up for housing with that said roommate by the 22nd.
They'll match each other on the 22nd. They'll need to apply for housing before the 9th in order to get access to the system.
So when do they apply for housing then?
The application is open now. The priority deadline is the 31st. And so there's some communication that's planning to go out June 1st. That's not to say that as soon, like, any student is able to continue applying for housing through that roommate matching period. It's not like if you miss it, you miss it. You'll get access to it as you apply to housing, but you'll just may not have the full breadth of everyone who has applied, just because some people might have selected their roommates. But you can apply as of right now.
Okay, so they apply for the housing, then they're over here talking to the person that they want to have the roommate to be roommates, and they do that on the 9th. That's when it's available. And then you guys do your magic behind the scenes. And then we'll notify them.
We do that. Yep, we do all of that work between the 22nd and August 5th. We kind of set it for a little bit to make sure that like no like last minute accommodations come in or anything like that. And then we open it up at the beginning of August.
Okay, very good. And then we say goodbye on the 20th. Okay, very good. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Andrea, I just dropped the link again for Willamette College enrolling student, that web page. I just dropped it into the chat again. That has a whole section on housing with all of the dates that you're looking at.
Okay,
so that can be a good page to just bookmark for you to be able to have all of that in one.
I have no idea. It's hard because you let them, because they're, you know, adults, and then you don't know what they're doing, and they may not be doing it.
Welcome to your
new. I see Janet like, yeah. Mine's on a school trip right now for the next 3 days, so I'm like.
There was one other person with their hand raised, but they may have put it down. Does anybody have one last question?
Janet, I'll see you. I'll look for you.
Okay, thank you for great questions. Thank you for your engagement. Thank you very much to Erin and Lisa and Jay and Roan for joining us with all of your expertise. Let's quickly have those 4 names that I just said, type your email address into the chat if you don't mind, just so that if people want to follow up with any of you with more specific questions, if you're willing to do that, please drop that in so that people can talk to an actual.
Rowan, how did you access the chat? It's disabled for me.
It's
Maybe
disabled.
I'm just having a problem over here.
I couldn't trust you, Jay.
Somebody
I'll put your email in. I'll do it for you. Are you okay with me putting it in for you?
Yes, that's, oh, nope, I have, yeah, that's fine. If you've already got it going, just.
Okay.
Yeah, oh, I have access.
Oh, you have access,
No.
then you put it in.
I got it, hold on. I was like, oh man.
Sorry, I didn't know I was asking for something that was technically so difficult, but thank you
There
for
it
helping
goes.
for helping each other. And thank you to everybody for joining us tonight. We really appreciate your participation. Our next virtual summer event for new Bearcats, we do not have one next week, but June 2nd is the next one. And it is focused on the first year experience and academic support. So that'll be a good one, and we hope many of you will join us. Until then, have a great night, everybody. Thanks.